internet walituwekea ingine hapa. Kutumia hiyo text WhatsApp. Text. Yeah. WhatsApp. Okay. That's the,
Yeah?
I guess, najua watu yes. Nataka ilete hii yeah. Yes. Inaleta. Wacha niangalie wale.
That will repeat itself, and that we are now seeing the resurgence after a decline in the activities. We are seeing the resurgence that we saw 20 years ago. And remember, they are now competing causes. Climate change is now an issue, and if there's no voice for trypanosomiasis, nobody will ever hear this problem anymore, because now everybody is engulfed with climate change and so on. And if there's no voice that is fighting for PATEC for continuing this work on it will die. Now the resurgence has been reported, as I said, and then there's also the issue that many of the actual experts in this area are also either they are retiring or dying or reducing in number and so on. So many of the people among the oldest of them, if we leave the scene, we feel that there will be a big gap and nobody will carry the cause. So we need really to revamp why this is possible. And then the risk of reinvasion, especially in areas that have been cleared, is clearly the wrong thing to happen, because you not only lose the investments that were made, but the problem will start all over again and so on. But at the same time, we know that this is technically feasible, it should be done. Now, to revive PATEC, I propose 5 or 7 things or so. We need to establish a revitalization committee, and this should be set up at the African Union Commission. We have proposals on that. I won't go into details, but this team will now consult the countries again, study the problem again, and make a new recommendation on a rejuvenation agenda and present it to the summit. And the summit will look at it, because the last time they looked at this problem was 22 years ago, 23 years ago. It will be good now to look at it and say, where are we? Since we made that decision, where are we? And make a new recommitment, a new rejuvenation, so that they move forward. And then we start to develop new proposals, and we create new resource mobilization offensives, and so on, and continue. And mobilize and involve RECs and so on. It's really a viable proposal if you look at it. And expected, if this plan that we're proposing is accepted, within a year, we'll be able to achieve this thing. We have a new functioning party coordination office. Remember, there's been no party coordination office at the AU Commission for what is it, 3 years now? Really, we don't understand why. But anyhow, that is one thing to be addressed. Clearly, no country can fight flies alone. You need to, for a collective effort. What was happening at the African Union before was the right thing to do. Concerted action, coordinated, and so on would be the right way to go. And of course, a new strategic plan will be available. There will be new, the rest would be possible. I know I'm offending someone to be, but I want there to be a Patek renaissance, if you like, a Patek renaissance, starting with, get this ISCTRC meeting being on for reviving Patek. Let this not be a sunset, let it be a sunrise, let it for Patek. And therefore, I want to stop there, and thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry.
Let's give another round of applause to Dr. Kabayo. You will all agree with me that he has taken us through the history, acceleration, and then reactivation. This is very important for this session, and we thank him very much for this wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. John Kabayo. Now, we invite Dr. Sept Onyango to give us the country report from now on.
Yes, Abba.
Okay, one more announcement. I deliberately gave more time. I did not set the timepiece for country representations because I wanted Dr. Kabayo to give us a more detailed history of this session. Now, from this time on, for the country presentations, I expect that each person will give just 10 minutes. We will not go beyond that. If you go beyond that, you will be cut off.
This time around, the repertoire is not very good. Okay. And my term starts counting now. My name is Dr. Sept Onyango. I want to present the status of cesarean trypanosomiasis control in Kenya, particularly focusing on the previous 2 years. From 2020 to 2023, those are precisely 3 years. Just to, okay, scroll on to the next slide. It seems not to be working from here. Next slide. Okay. I wish to point out the background of cesarean trypanosomiasis eradication or control in Kenya. In Kenya, we have 47 counties. Of the 47 counties, 38 are CC infested, and we have 7 CC belts. Kenya, as you may have also noted from the presentation of General Kabayo, we used to call him General, was among the 6 countries that implemented Patek Phase 1. So this is how Kenya started, despite the fact that CC control has gone on for over 100 years, but the invigorated efforts of Patek started in 2006. Next slide, please. Is it now working? Okay. So I was talking about the area infested. That amounts to about 138 square kilometers, which is 23% of the entire land surface of Kenya. So the Sept belts in Kenya include North Rift, Central Kenya, Coast, Transmara, Moro, Kajiado, that's one belt, isolated Sept belts which are in the northern part of Kenya, and Western and Lake Victoria. Sept species in Kenya are about 8, and they mainly affect cattle. That is the main victim, but we know that all those other types of livestock are also affected. Sleeping sickness is endemic in Kenya, in the western Kenya region, widely known as the Lake Victoria Basin, but also extending downwards to the Transmara Sept belt. Those living in those areas which are endemic of HAT are about 7 million. So this is the population that we can say is at risk of infestation. The problem of Sept fly in Kenya infestation is quantified to be about Kenya shillings 20 billion. In terms of US dollar, it is 143 million annually. With all those problems that Sept pose in our country, Kenya, when the decision of the African heads of state was made, we engaged into a concerted effort of controlling under the PATEC initiative, and that started in the year 2005. This happened under the support of African Development Bank and the government of Kenya, which implemented this project up to the year 2012, and there were achievements attributed to that. After that, PATEC in Kenya became Kentec, and Kentec as an institution, a corporation in government, was established in the year 2012 with a mandate of coordinating all Sept anti-parasitic control activities in Kenya. That is the commitment that the government had, that my director here talked about. Just to enumerate how we work the structure, we are in 7 regions with the regional coordinators who link with county governments which are there in Kenya under the devolved system of governance. The activities we do, I will just mention the technologies that we commonly deploy for the control towards eradication. We use spraying and dipping, application of parons, deployment of insecticide-treated targets. We also use traps for control. We use livestock protective fences for those farmers who have had improved breeds of animals and are keeping them under 0 grazing units. We do periodic entomological and epidemiological surveys, and also concerning HAT, we collaborate with the Ministry of Health to do that surveillance. And as you've been told before, we have been having 0 cases since the year 2009, as has been repeatedly quoted by previous speakers. This I will just skip. These are technologies that you are familiar with, but they are the main ones that we use in Kenya. In areas where we have suppressed the populations, mainly around our conservation areas, we are also promoting introduction of improved breeds, exotic breeds, and as well as promoting improvement of the existing breeds, the indigenous breeds that are there. We support farmers to improve them through AI. We do capacity building, which involves capacity building to county governments, our communities, so that we share in the function whereby Kentec takes lead in national functions, but county governments do the devolved functions. This is a summary of the kind of technologies we have used in the last 2 years. As I said, ITC, insecticide-treated cattle, this is just data showing the number of livestock sprayed by selected community groups which we support, we train to do spraying of livestock so that the neighboring communities can learn from them, just to act as a demonstration. For them, actually, we go ahead to provide seed inputs like insecticides to train them to demonstrate, but it is being picked up by other farmers.
3 more minutes.
Okay, the next one, this is the total number of insecticide treated targets that we have used. That is the column for tiny targets, and that's the column for livestock protective fences. The results of our entomological and parasitological monitoring, specifically in the areas where we concentrate, we consider hotspots, because we have not widely covered the entire country. Mainly we work intensively in about 22 counties. Remember I said 38 are infested. So these results are concentrated around hotspots which are near, adjacent to our conservation areas. Okay, basically those are the results I talked about the HAT. So this is just at a glance. We have sampled a number of counties, 111 per region, for you to see the trend. And generally what you are seeing here, if you look at the Patek years, there was a decline. But thereafter, there is something like erratic. And this resonates very well with what the general was saying here. So I'll just scroll through quickly. The earlier years were the years of Patek, but then thereafter, you can see the graph which is wavering, sometimes up, sometimes down. This will be towards my last slide. I want also to state that Kenya has embraced the progressive control pathway, and this we do in collaboration with the FAO. We are currently implementing combat project who are giving us a technical capacity to do this. We have basically staged counties depending on how much they have done towards Sézée and trypanosomiasis control. You will see areas which are indicated red, specifically means those which don't have even data on the status of TNT. Those which tend to the blue, they have done at least something, starting from having baseline data. Some could be having both baseline data, and some control activities have taken place. And if you see those which are now deep blue, those are the areas which are top on the PCP steps. Top here means they are just in stage 2. I'm sure we have a full paper on that Kenya will present in collaboration with FAO, and we'll give the total details of that. So this basically is the mapping of all our counties. It's an example showing you the road that we want to walk from year 1, 2, 3 up to year 10. The color schemes are showing different stages, but as I mentioned, this will come out clearly when we are presenting a paper, and also the poster that we are displaying out there. Achievements in areas that we have worked with, that we have deployed all those technologies. We have reduced the fly populations to levels where we are now seeing communities engaging in profitable agriculture. Livestock body conditions improved. The prevalences have gone down. We are also talking about the no sleeping case since the year 2009 in Kenya. We have our challenges, the transboundary nature of the TNT, climate change. Of course, as an organization, we are still growing, still very thin on the ground in terms of staff, and also the challenge of resources, which cuts across, I'm sure it cuts across most of our sister countries. Enhanced collaboration, enhanced financing for TNT governments, apart from looking for development partner funding. I think it is important to say that governments need to allocate more resources to TNT, more staff in TNT management, and also promotion of sustainable land management in SESE-free areas. With that, I end my presentation there, and thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Sept. One more round of applause for Dr. Sept. Now, he's gone beyond the time, but I just had to be a bit considerate. The next presenter will be Dr. Lawrence Tusi Mungi, this time strictly by the 10 minutes. Keep with our time, otherwise we will not make it. We have just 1 hour for this session.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me to present the country report on TNT control in Uganda. I'm Lawrence Tusimomhanj. I'm the Acting Commissioner, Entomology Department in the Ministry of Agriculture, Uganda. Next is. Yeah, this is how the plan of the presentation is. And you know, SESE transmitted African trypanosomiasis in man is problematic for both human and animal, as represented by our slide like that. So it's a big challenge in Uganda and beyond the region. So the T&T control in Uganda, initially, as we go through those years from 1940, the country has been participating in massive, intensive SESE control operations, but later it lagged for some time. And as we have been told by some of our speakers, that up to 2000, up to the year 2000, a decision was taken by African Union to present proposal for a collective action against the disease. So Uganda also became part of this initiative to conduct various operations in the control of TNT. So, and thereafter, efforts to control SESE trypanosomiasis in Uganda followed. The European Union supported farming in SESE controlled areas called FITICA, that operated from 2001 to 2010, and it mainly focused in Western Uganda, where most of livestock is kept. Then there was an ADB-funded program for the creation of sustainable SESE and trypanosomiasis-free areas, TATIFA, implemented from 2006 to 2011. But after these donor-funded programs ended, SESE control activities followed a decentralization arrangement in Uganda, and most of the areas received a little support, almost even zero funding to the activities of SESE control. So there was kind of neglect, and trypanosomiasis became a problem in most of the areas. So the impact and incidence of the trypanosomiasis have greatly escalated of late and become a subject of great concern in areas as shown in the map. You can see the problems is over the area, covering almost 60%, but most of these areas appear along protected areas and large water bodies, bringing a problem of control. Part of it is our national Murchison Falls in the western part. You can see the western part of the col. It is highly infested. So we had a situation where the problem is spread along the country, across the country, and close to 60% of the livestock, that is 6.3 million heads of cattle, including goats and sheep, are exposed to the risk of animal trypanosomiasis. Then in that regard, we as a country had some initiatives, and the Ministry of Agriculture responsible for cessation control, we believe that this problem can be eliminated, and we intensified some activities relying on farm-based cessation control through live-bait technology for vector for cessation control, and deployment of insect-treated traps and targets in most of those infested areas. Then treatment of the affected livestock, especially cattle, and continuing with mass education in the affected areas. Also, it's of late that we have also formed a task force comprising national experts, policy makers, and subject matter specialists to ensure that we develop a 10-year comprehensive strategic plan for the implementation of the T&T problem. And I am happy to note that Dr. Kabayo, the previous speaker that has presented, is the key lead consultant of this task force. So he's assisting us in formulating a 10-year strategy. Then there will be regular assessment and updating data on the prevalence of trypanosomiasis in the country. Then from there, the task force will also prepare project proposals in a phased program of interventions aimed at eliminating the scourge of trypanosomiasis in Uganda. So along that, we have earmarked those 5 key areas where the problem is felt. And we have, for example, the island districts of Kalangala, Buvuma within Lake Victoria. That is the focal point where, for example, elimination can be first targeted. And also, we have another district bordering the national park, which also we are not we don't access easily. But the districts in southeastern Uganda also, like we include Iganga, Matunga, Kaliro, is also another area of focus. Then we have the West Nile sub-region, but the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine has been facilitating us in deploying tiny targets for that work to continue monitoring. Then we have another key area around the Murchison Falls. You can see those all sites are on gazetted areas where, for example, they offer conducive conditions for sessile fly breeding, for the vector breeding. So the current interventions for example, we continue as a government to put in resources. Those are the recent surveys recorded on the average of, for example, per trap in northern and southeastern region. Then we have a point of almost 350 flies per trap in Kabong and Kotido. That is an area in the eastern region, in the Karamoja region. Then we have northwestern Uganda, that is close to Kidepo National Park, and also 12, a density of 12.8 FTD in parts of the Murchison Falls National Park, which has that area. You can see these areas are centers of tourism attraction, and if we intensify those, the tourism industry can benefit a lot. We also keep engaging communities in sensitizing them, because part of it, these communities, through the decentralization policy, they are the people who realize the problem and advocate for some budgeting in their districts. So bringing them together and making them realize the problem will be a great advantage in the control of TNT. We have intensive trap deployment in the affected areas. And for example, we have a lot of GFF and G Paridipes for areas around Murchison Falls National Park, then Paridipes and Centralis in the Lake Mburo National Park. We keep, for example, intensify the insect-treated traps and screens, then using live bait technology. We also have a plan to recruit technical staff in every district, and also following the parish development model that the council has started implementing at every parish, so that we should be able to have at least a community health worker for livestock in every parish. Then we have the challenges. First of the one of the challenges is resurgence, and then limited collaboration then among various stakeholders, and limited access to these gazetted areas, then the human resource capacity. But also SESE as a problem tends to compete with other priorities in the nation. So they tend not to offer priority to it, but with our continued engagement, it would be possible. So for the current 23-24, we intend in our capacity as the country and the ministry to have more extra 9,000 liters of power loan in areas for areas of Karamoja and Lake Mburo National Park. Then also traps, and continue with SESE monitoring with tiny targets in West Nile. Then engage government and development partners and the Partake initiative to mobilize and provide support to the Uganda SESE and trypanosomosis eradication project, estimated to cost $20 million. So our way forward is to conduct eradication, to conduct SESE suppression using an area-wide integrated pest management approach, which would bring about many key players to solve the problem. Then promotion and popularize income-generating land use practices in SESE reclaimed areas where they are not, and capacity building on the staff to effectively integrate SESE eradication into the decentralized service delivery system for sustainable control, and harmonize national SESE eradication programs internally and with regional initiatives taking into consideration the transboundary nature of the SESE infestations through Partake initiatives. Thank you very much.
Yes, we thank our speaker, Dr. Lawrence, for this wonderful presentation within time. Now we call on Dr. Boma Sauda to give us a presentation on country report. Dr. Boma, do we have Dr. Boma is not around? Oh, then I will come and this time around the moderator will be the one to present. So I'll be moderating myself whilst presenting, and nobody should be able to time me. Good afternoon once again. Yahya Adam is the name. I'm now introducing myself. And we should see the next slide. Next slide. Ghana report on SESE and trypanosomosis control activities since 2020. Yeah, that was immediately after the ISCTRC conference in Nigeria. We want to see activities. We want you to see activities that have been going on in Ghana. The outline is there. Introduction. Please, next slide. I don't want to waste much time. Okay. Okay. Next slide. Okay, I can use this for the next slide. Hey, the moderator cannot change the slides. Okay. Thank you very much. Now I know how to change the slides. African animal trypanosomes (AAT) constitute a major constraint on livestock production systems and in general agricultural development in Ghana. The problem of AAT is being managed by the System Control Unit, a specialized unit under the Veterinary Services Director of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, with the mandate to suppressing turtle populations across the country and to implement the PATEC initiative, the AU PATEC initiative. Should it be there or here? Now the moderator was not coached very well, and I'm not seeing where I'm to move to. Should it be pointed at the main slide? Okay. Over there, not to the screen. Okay. Hopefully. So I'm not the only one who is not being able to do this. The coach is also having problems with it. So I should not be blamed. Okay. It's gone back to introduction. Maybe somebody should control it from there for me. Otherwise, no timing for this time. This time the wording has even changed. So the problem was not the moderator, but the machine. I should be having 5 additional minutes to complete my presentation. Technology is always a problem sometimes. To make up the time, those who will come after me will give within 8 minutes. Maybe I should take my laptop and do the presentation. Okay. Did we finish the previous slide? We did. Okay, so we want to look at the structure of veterinary services in Ghana. In fact, for tether control, a specialized unit has been created within the Veterinary Services Directorate of MOFA. This specialized unit has the mandate to control tether and trypanosomosis across the country under the Veterinary Services Directorate, which also falls under the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Now, the unit has still maintained the structures of PATEC when it was formulated. We have the entomology unit. In fact, a veterinary surgeon has been designated to perform that role as an entomologist. We have a GIS expert who is still there from the first generation, PATEC coordinators management unit. Then we have the M&E, who is from the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, but is still working for the unit. Then we have an account section that mainly harnesses our accounts. So if there is any funding to the unit, you can be sure there's a body to manage their accounts without fail. Now, existing church facilities. We have a number of existing office infrastructure exists for sector control at Pontamale, which is the main head office of the unit. We have one in Accra, and we have another in Wa. I think the first PATEC coordinator will attest to this. These structures still exist. We have not dismantled them. We have office equipment like computers, printers, and we have transportation. We have 4 4x4 vehicles, pickups. 2 are new and 2 are still manageable. We have also 1 heavy-duty truck which is manageable. We are using it, but we need to maintain it all the time. Equipment for sector control, biconical traps, limited in number, targets, hematocrit, centrifuges. All these equipments are there. I don't need to belabor on it. Now, progress of sector control in Ghana since 2020. Sector suppression to reduce the burden of AAT is taking place in 5 out of the existing 16 regions of Ghana, albeit on limited scale at varied levels across the country. Activities performed include sector density monitoring, sector population suppression, replacement of broken down sector barriers, and capacity building training. You can see those 5 regions on the map. Then we have a summary of activities being performed since 2020. I will go through them one after the other. Okay, so the first issue we want to look at is monitoring population densities. And you can see by pictorial evidence activities that we do carry out with, in fact, biconical traps, we use it to measure the level of control anytime we go to the fall. A number of traps are deployed to see the level of suppression going on. In one of these instances, sector population density survey was conducted in 2022 on a limited scale. In fact, we wanted to make it big so that we could measure the level of suppression since the last project that we had in 2012. We wanted to see the level of suppression 10 years after this major intervention. But unfortunately, our data was so scanty, but nonetheless, we were able to come out with results that could tell the level of suppression that we have in the Upper West region, because we needed to know, having invested so much in the first PATEC project, 10 years after, what would be the level of tether population densities. And we'll see the results in the next slide. So interpreting the results from Guri to, can I see it from here? From Guri to Nerikoyiri. These are villages along the Black Volta. And you could see that 10 years after, the level of suppression is still very low. That is in red. But after 2012 major intervention, you could see that we were able to maintain a low suppression level. But immediately after Nerikoyiri going up, you could see that there has been a resurgence. Why is this so? In this area, Baleyiri, Mwaleyiri, and Tankara, these were the hotspots that the major intervention with aerial spraying could not get rid of flies. We had at least some 2% left on the fields. So you could see the way there's a resurgence because the fly population was still left after the major intervention. Now, reducing the burden of trypanosomes, you could see that we use targets all over. We do target deployment, that's insecticide impregnated screens, and then we do ground spraying. These are the main activities for now. We don't do aerial spraying, we don't have SIT, and so on. So these are the major control measures we use in Ghana since 2012. Then we do human resource development. We do training of extension officers just to let them know. Extension officers from Ministry of Food and Agriculture, we train them to let them know what is going on the field, such that they can maintain our traps or equipment on the field without pilfering. Then in one of such trainings, we were able to send 10 members of staff or technical staff to Burkina Faso to do parasitological training or to have parasitological training just to increase the capacity of our staff and also the general laboratory staff within the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. And these pictures came from this Burkina Faso training. Then we also had molecular training and socio-economic training with the IAEA. In fact, we had sponsorship to send one of our staff, a newly trained veterinary doctor, for this training, one in Kenya and one in Senegal. Public education. We do public education every now and then to let the population know that we have equipment on the field and we deploy them to be able to suppress flies on the field. If you don't train them, there are some of them who will take these equipments, especially the insecticide-treated screens. They understand that they contain insecticides. So they just take them for window curtains and then door curtains to ward off mosquitoes in their homes. But we try to educate them to keep them off, to let them know that these equipments are there for their interest, but not for selfish individuals. Okay, I think we are almost at the last end of it. So that should be it. Now, the prompt has not changed, but the main problem militating against the success of tertiary intervention programs in the case of Ghana is insufficient budgetary funding. You could see that we have the personnel, we have the equipment, we have accommodation, transport, but our main problem in making progress is funding. We recommend adequate funding to reflect the magnitude of the task. Transmitted AAT is a transboundary disease. We recommend cross-border control programs to prevent infestation of cleared lands. AAT is a neglected disease receiving little attention from policymakers. This problem has been compounded by the declaration from WHO that heart is no longer a health issue in Ghana. Since the vector of AAT is also the vector of heart, we recommend that future declarations of that sort should be sidestepped to be in tandem with the attainment of AAT-free status. You cannot talk of having heart-free conditions when the vector transmitting the disease is still existing. So we will plead with WHO to sidestep any such declarations, because in our part of the world, once the problem is not affecting human beings, no attention is paid to it. And I can tell you that there's little attention on AAT in Ghana since the declaration that Ghana is no longer, heart is no longer a problem in Ghana. That should be sidestepped to go in tandem, because the vector transmitting heart is also the same vector transmitting AAT. With this, I rest my presentation. Thank you. Another round of applause for the moderator. We call on the next speaker, Dr. Ajakaye of Nigeria, to give us Nigerian country report. This time you will be time for 8 minutes presentation.
Well done. Good afternoon, every one of us. Moderator, thank you for giving me 8 minutes. This is the country report from Nigeria. And this is the general outline. Basically, there are 5. We have the general information. We have the progress of implemented T&T control activities. We have the challenges and proposed strategic action. We have the contribution of international stakeholders to national T&T intervention. And we have our activities that is planned towards 2024. Generally, this is, I will call this the general outline of the organizational structure of PATEC Nigeria, majorly with more than 17 staffs. And basically, it's been funded from 2020 to 2023, we can see that there's an oscillation where in 2022 we have the largest subvention, whereas in 2023, the subvention has come to be the lowest. Among the around the general information, we have the total area infested with SESE to be about more than 50% of the total landmass of Nigeria, which is about 924,000 square kilometers. And the areas under control is just minimal. We can call it a tithe of it. That is about 1/10 of the total land mass, with a human population of about 200 million in 2021, and having a cattle population of about 20 million. And we have some useful economic data that we can see that are stated here. No, it's not moving. Okay, thank you. The progress of T&T control activities, particularly we have this control method that we have put in place, which is more or less, you can call it more or less like a fold-up system of T&T control. we have basically 6 geopolitical zones. And we have taken it from both one from the northern axis, which is the northeast, and then one from the southern region, which is the southwest. Now here is the northeastern region, and we are covering we have just covered 2 states majorly. In Bauchi State, we have what is known as the Yankari Game Reserve. Sometimes before 2019, there had been great degree of suppression. But in 2020 and 2022, we saw that the Sese species population build-up came up to 127 per Sese per trap per day. But these eventually, after our suppression, has reduced to 113 Sese per trap per day for Glossina tachinoides, and 14.8 in the same way for Glossina morsitan submorsitan. Here we have in Gombe State, that's the second state where we have worked intensively. We have done delineation, and we have 3 major operational blocks. Advocacy and sensitization has been done in 5 of the 11 local government areas in that place. And then we have gotten a baseline data collection, and we have done intervention in those 5 local government areas, in the area of AAT, in the parasitological aspect, the epidemiological aspect, what I would call the chemotherapy using trypanosides, and we have also evaluated the socioeconomic report in that region. Now, for the build-up in capacity, we want to thank particularly Food and Agricultural Organization in 2 major areas. In the area of Atlas Development, represented by Mr. Sechi Guliano, we want to thank you particularly in the area of the virtual training that you have given to us. But now, like an Oliver Twist, we want to ask if it is possible for them to come directly, you understand, instead of the virtual, because you told me some time ago that the virtual had problem. You were not hearing it very well. And we also want to thank you again, FAO, by sponsoring Nancy Ngeri some time ago to come and teach people on the mapping techniques. Now, in the area of monitoring and evaluation, yes, NITA, where NITA is the Nigerian Institute for Trypanosomiasis Research. That is where the PATEC Coordinating Monitoring Unit is domiciled. Yes, we have a department that is responsible for M&E, and their report showed about 80% compliance in the progress report of what we have been doing. Now, these are part of it, of what we have done, particularly in the areas of the Northwest, which includes Jigawa State majorly, and in the Northeast, which includes Gombe State. And we can see, and the last aspect is the construction and equipping of equipping infrastructure, where we are building now what is known as the Sese mass rearing facility. This is for us to be able to implant what is known as the sterile insect technology. The building is about, I would say, about at the lintel level, where the next step now is to have what we call the roofing. Then, before we go for specification of how to get the cobalt 60 that will be used. Eventually, these are relationships that we have established, or collaboration with one of the states. That is the Gombe State, with the secretary to the government of the federation, because we have to take this thing to the political owners, such that they can help in assisting. And in this, we have gotten a lot of cooperation from them, wherein they are they have given us their words to help us with infrastructural building, like the establishment of the zonal office in the state. And we have here, in terms of international, in terms of the international collaborations, we've had 2 meetings, particularly in the area of the Nigeria-Niger Joint Commission for Cooperation. That is for international cooperation, such that we could work. And in this cooperation, it has been said that it should be extended in such a way that the government of both countries, that is Niger and Nigeria, should consider urgently the establishment of the same similar local bilateral cooperation with other neighboring countries like Cameroon, Chad, and the Benin Republic, which is one of the bipod of PATEC initiative. Then also in the area of collaboration, we have what is known as the, we are collaborating with a World Bank project that is called EarthPress. That is the livestock productivity, resilience, and support project. This is ongoing, where we are almost signing an MOU to work with them within the context of the remaining states in the northwest and the northeastern zone of Nigeria. Now, here are our challenges and what I will call corrective activities. One of the things that has been hindering our activities, field intervention, has been majorly incessant insecurity in the northeastern Nigeria. But these challenges, with the help of government, who normally support us with well-armed security, we go to the field and we're able to do our work. We also have very little support from non-governmental organizations, and as we say, we cannot be talking of lack of funding. We do have funds, but low funding. And then we need more of Hilux four-wheel drive, that is to be able to get to regions that are intractable. This apart, we have done much of our advocacy, sensitization and delineation in Kano State. We are also planning, by the grace of God, to go up to reach up to Okomu National Park in Edo State. That is in the northwest and in the south-south region of Nigeria. And we want to continue the suppression of Sese at Yankari Game Reserve, and also the continuation of the building of the Sese Mass Rearing Facility. Muchísimas gracias. That is, thank you very much.
Oh, Nigeria. I know Nigeria and Ghana, we collaborate a lot. You've given me 2 more minutes. That's good. Thank you. Yes. So our next speaker will be Dr. Chilongo of Uganda. Of Zambia. Dr. Chilongo, I'm not sending you to Uganda. So, you're welcome.
Good afternoon. All right, thank you very much. So I will share with you an overview of the major undertakings that we've done in Zambia, I think since 2020. Okay. Next. All right. In the spirit of revitalization of PATEC, we use the PATEC template, as you can see. So I'll focus. I'll focus on the items in blue mainly. This was, I think, that's the template we've used over the years. Where do I point it at? All right. In the context of general information, I think I've presented that so many times. That's the area that is infested. And we had plans for a control operation over the past 5 years. It hasn't taken off. The population is at that level, together with the cattle one. And the last ranking of in terms of priority diseases in the country, trypanosomiasis was at the 2nd position. All right. In summary, what we have is that we had plans to undertake a major operation in terms of control of sessile flies in 9,300 square kilometers, but that has stalled over the past 5 years. And so we thought we focus our resources on aspects of collecting data to update our sessile distribution maps, and also to develop a national TNT control strategy. Oh boy. Okay, so the focus was on those 4 major activities: updating of our TNT data, is it here? Okay, I was saying the focus was on those 3 major activities: updating of the data that we have. That entailed that we do cess and trip surveys, establishment of a geodatabase that goes along with the data collected, and then we have we needed to develop our national TNT control strategy document, and of course training. And then we had 3 sources of funding: the normal government funding, and we've had quite significant support from the combat project. Yeah, so generally that is the challenge. Our current distribution map, the data is so old, from the 1950s I should say, and the most recent data is so limited in terms of coverage, and of course spatial and temporal context, in the spatial and temporal context. So the objective was to collect data so that we're able to update that, and at the same time develop a national database, to manage that data. So I've already indicated the 2 sources of funding. So under the government support, we undertook TNT surveys in major cattle. Okay. I'm told to hold.
Don't worry, I'll give you 5 more minutes because I distracted you with my what do you call alarm bell. So don't worry, I'll have you 5 minutes.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm not being autocratic, but I'm just being honest.
Thank you. I'll try to all right, so I was saying, I passed that one. Yeah, I was saying under the normal government budget, we undertook 3 major activities. The first, TNT surveys, covering parts of the eastern sessile belt and then also parts of the Kafue sessile belt. I should mention here that these are the belts that are most important in terms of the most important cattle keeping provinces in the country. So about 80% of the cattle, they are affected by those 2 sessile belts. Then we undertook some kind of socio-economic survey, in which case we simply wanted to have the community experiences, to learn from the opinion and the experiences of communities on the importance of trips in that particular sessile belt. Then we also had training assignments undertaken. So in terms of results, that map gives you an overview of what came out of the surveys. I hope you get a good impression of what the data told us. Yeah, I will not get into the details, but I just hope, let's say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I hope that's exactly what it is. Next, in terms of AAT, the surveys, that's what came out of the surveys that we undertook, of importance is probably the one on your extreme left, where we didn't get any positive cases of the disease, despite the area being within SES-infested area. But I should mention here that later on, this was using parasitological tests, but later on, PCR tests detected about 30% positives. Yeah, then we look at the socio-economic survey. So we undertook interviews with farmers in this particular community, 162 farmers interviewed. And they were looking at the quick key questions. Of course, we needed to know the role of cattle in meeting household needs, losses experienced in rearing cattle, and where the cause, okay, was some disease. We needed to get a description from them. And where the cause was disease, again, looked at what they did, prevention, treatment measures, practice as advised by vets. And if they used drugs, which drugs? And where did they get the drugs from? These were among the key questions that were asked. So we have data. We are yet simply to analyze the data. Secondly, we had activities supported under the Combat Project. Again, the major issue was to look at development of a geodatabase that could help us manage SES and TRIPS data better. And then we had surveys meant to ensure that we collect more data for that. So we had surveys undertaken in 6 provinces, in terms of SES surveys, TRIPS surveys in 2 provinces. And in terms of the development of a geodatabase, this has been a process from 2021, and I'll summarize later how much has been done on that. Then we undertook training under Combat, where 6 training activities in 5 provinces were undertaken. So in terms of the surveys supported under Combat, those were the outcomes. So each of the sites indicated in the map of Zambia, if you zoom in, then you get, those were the outcomes. Those are the results as we obtained them. In terms of trypanosomiasis surveys, we got those outcomes in the 3 sites. Yeah, development of the national geodatabase. So the major activities undertaken in terms of the progress made. We've had training on how to do that. We've identified the necessary data that is available, and we've designed the draft geodatabase, and we've started inputting data repository and the draft into the draft geodatabase itself. And also we are now inputting any new data that is coming in through the surveys I've talked about. The development of a national strategy document. We have since prepared a draft document. That means that that's the work done by ourselves as a unit, and that has been owned by the whole unit. We gathered all members of the key members of staff from the unit, from the provinces, so that they have an input into it. So we had a draft that you could call ours as a unit. That is our draft. Then we took it to the department level, where all other key players in the department had an input into it. And that means now we have a departmental draft. So that one now will be taken to other stakeholders within the ministry, the other ministries, or other departments in the ministry, such that it becomes a ministerial draft with their input. Thereafter, we're supposed to bring in other stakeholders external to government, from wildlife, Minister of Health and the like. Then at that particular time, once it goes through that, we'll be ready to send it to cabinet for ratification. Looking at collaboration, of course, it's usual, ongoing with our national parks, because most of the SES belts are linked.
2 minutes more.
Yeah, associated with these national parks. Of course, we also have links with the game ranches and other private tourism investors with regard to the risk of human trips. With the university, we collaborate quite routinely on diagnostics. Ministry of Health, we've now produced collectively a national One Health strategic plan. Yeah, international collaborations, IAEA combat FAO, straightforward. Main challenges, of course, I mentioned earlier that we have a SESE control operation that was approved 2017-18, but it has stalled in terms of implementation with part of the funding already provided, but for some reason, a lot of technical challenges, we haven't moved forward. So that is a major challenge. We thought we are supposed to be judged by how much area we are making SESE free, not just by surveys and surveillance and the like. Yeah, so those are the planned activities. We wish to really ensure that we conclude with those, and at the same time advocate for the aerial spraying to the planning and the treasury authorization to continue with it to be reactivated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kilungu. One more round of applause for our presenter. Now we call on the next speaker, who is Dr. Mindurwa of Zimbabwe. Dr. Mindurwa, you are welcome to the stage. So you know your time, 8 minutes.
Thank you so much.
The moderator had taken 2 minutes from your.
Can you please operate it from there?
So whilst waiting for the, oh, it's been launched. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Alban from Zimbabwe. I'll give you in the next 10 minutes the activities, the next 8 minutes, thank you, from 2021 up to 2023. Next slide. Next slide. No, I want you to operate it from there. Okay, that's fine. That is the presentation outline, and we don't need to waste time. Let's go to the next slide. The Department of Veterinary Services. Sorry, the Department of State Control falls under the Directorate of Veterinary Services within the Ministry of Agriculture. And its mandate is eradication of TNT for sustainable rural development. That is the thrust. TNT is a devastating disease. And as you are aware, or you might be aware, about 65% to 67% of our rural households, they rely on livestock as a livelihood strategy. And therefore, the eradication of this disease is actually an engine of growth, or one of the engines of growth for the rural sector in our realization of Vision 2030. That is the vision of our president. Therefore, Zimbabwe has adopted what is called the TNT policy, and that is a policy of progressive, area-wide, integrated SESE elimination in all areas that are under the burden of this scourge. Next slide. Now, this policy thrust that I've just mentioned is governed by the following national, sector, sub-sector policies. And then we draft our own departmental strategy for a period of 5 years. And every year we review the strategy. And those are the national policies, the national vision, the National Development Strategy 2021 up to 2025, the Agriculture and Food Systems Transformation Strategy. Then we have the Livestock Recovery and Growth Plan that seeks to grow the livestock subsector from a 0.9 billion to a 1.9 billion. And we are covered under that one. Then we draft our strategic thrust. Next slide. Now, in terms of the strategic thrust, we have the short term, which covers those 3 elements. SESE elimination in all rural communities under TNT burden, SESE elimination in wildlife areas where Arahat is a threat. Thirdly, intensive and extensive TNT surveys and surveillance. And then we have the medium to long-term thrust, progressive area-wide eradication, erection and maintenance of state barriers, and then intensive and extensive TNT survey and surveillance. One key thing which is critical for the success of our operations is multiple production of traps and targets. We have had a challenge where if you identify one vendor, there are chances of that vendor not meeting your supplies. Then we have research and development. It's really an anchor pillar for elimination, and it covers both the short and the long term. And then we have the need for new skills, new knowledge, and the technologies that is required to support threat control operations. This is key. This is key, and I really need to emphasize that research is required for us to move forward. Next slide. Okay, the current situation in terms of distribution is as shown on this map. In terms of area, we are left with approximately 20,000 square kilometers, and that one is broken down into 3.7 thousand square kilometers in the communal areas, and then 16,000 in wildlife areas. And top priority is item number 2, and that is priority for the Zimbabwean government. We really want to remove that constraint from our rural communities. We really want to make sure that the rural communities reach their production potential without a challenge. Next slide. Next slide. This has been dwelt on by Dr. Kabayo and others. And this is very critical for Zimbabwe, because on one side, along the Mozambique side, we have eradicated the flies right up to the edge. And we are carrying out intensive, both the vector and the disease, just to make sure that we don't have the problem getting into Zimbabwe. And then the area that I referred to, the 20,000 that is remaining, is that portion which is part of the common fly belt for Zambia, Mozambique, and Malawi. And it's really a cause for concern for us, because we need to safeguard past efforts. And the instruction from my principles is to make sure that we don't lose any ground from now on. It's an aggressive approach. Next slide. Just to highlight some of the programs that are running, the technologies that we are using. Next slide. In terms of state surveys, this map shows what was done in 2021. And it was purely a targeted approach because there were problems to be addressed. Along the state front, we have another technique that we are using, that is cattle dipping, and it's very effective. And for 2021, we surveyed about 7,000 square kilometers using the following sampling methods: epsilon traps, tsetse fly rounds, and we had catches in those communal areas. And then we have Makuti Arahat, which is within a national parks area, and the third one is a communal area. Next slide, that is for 2022. Again, the same thing. If you watch, there is a gradual shift towards intensive and extensive surveillance, because we really wanted to understand what is happening on the ground. And again, this is what transpired during the year 2022. Next slide. Next slide. Now, in the year 2023, I'm pretty sure you can see the approach was completely different. We had to go along the entire Tsetse front. We really need to understand what is happening on the ground. And then a decision has to be taken based on the information that is collected. And those were the results. These are the results for surveys that were conducted as from 2021 up to 2022 in August this year. Let's move on to Tsetse elimination. Next slide. Sorry, trip surveillance. This method is one of the most sensitive techniques that we use to confirm that we have done the job. Besides the traps, the vector itself, we have to declare after we have said the sites along the entire Sept front are not reading, are not recording the trips cases. And we have a total of 150 dips along the entire front, which we monitor on a monthly basis. And on average, the 20th animal is smeared. And we have been smearing approximately 400 animals per month. And we have detected 1 T. brucei in 2023. Next slide.
2 minutes more.
So this slide, 2 minutes.
2 minutes here.
Okay. This graph shows the trips cases in the animals. Then this one, the combined trips cases, we have got 3 in their proportions. The next slide. That's elimination. Those were the areas that were attacked in 2021. Next slide. Those were the areas that were attacked in 2022. Next slide. Those were the areas, these are the areas that we have attacked this year. And we are on an ongoing process. And we really need to attack all the communal areas. Next slide. Right, okay. This slide shows the treatments that were done around Matusarana National Park. And definitely from the characteristics of this graph, you will never achieve elimination unless you progressively move forward. And the move is to get into Matusarana National Park, flood it with targets, kill the fly, and come in with the drone. And we are in the process of refining the drone technology to clear flies in Matusarana. Next slide. This is for Makuti. Next slide. This is for Kanyamba targeted deployment. Next slide. Cattle dipping. This just shows the belt of cattle dipping. And this is an effective technique because it's on a 5-5 regime, 5-5-4 regime for every 2 weeks. And it's working perfectly well. We've got 125 dip tanks that are under cattle dipping, and this is what is happening. Traffic control, very important. All traffic that is coming from Tsetse-infested areas have to be monitored, and they will not drop flies in Tsetse-freed areas. Next slide. Just to show the catches with traffic control gates. Next slide. We come on to research. Next slide. Tsetse research. We have got 3 items. One, evaluation of alternative attractants. Then we have materials, target cloth materials evaluation. Then climate study changes. Then the last one, sorry. Then the last one should be on Tsetse repellents. Thank you. Let's go to the next one. Then we have our partners that we are working with. Combat, LIPS, IAA, stakeholders. Next one. Now, conclusion. Within the 3 years, we have deployed about 28,000 targets in 7.4 thousand square kilometers, and the TNT surveillance has been intensified. Approximately 2,000 square kilometers has been freed of the fly, but we are conducting intensive surveys on that one. As I mentioned, 1 T. brucei has been recorded during the review period, and then research is going on. Next slide. Then recommendations. Engagement of neighboring countries is critical for us to succeed. And then call for resumption of PATEC initiative to address challenges associated with the common fly belt. Then strong research, and then collaboration with regional, local, and international partners. I thank you.
Thank you. One more round of applause for Dr. Mindrua. Now, our next speaker, and at least before our health break, is Dr. Sumaila Pagablenu. Dr. Sumaila, you are welcome, of Burkina Faso.
My name is Sumaila Pagablenu from Burkina Faso. My slides are on English, but the presentation will be done on French. En attendant que ça arrive, je veux dire juste, vous savez, comme disait Dr Kabayo, le Burkina fait partie donc des 6 pays qui ont bénéficié donc de la première phase donc PATEC. Et donc des activités ont été menées. Et nos activités ont été menées donc de 2006 à 2013. Donc à la fin donc, de 2013, nous étions donc le 2e pays qui a abrité donc un insectarium donc régional que nous avons nommé donc insectarium de Bobo de Lasso, qui devait produire donc des mâles stériles pour les différentes campagnes donc en Afrique donc de l'Ouest. Et donc à la fin donc de notre activité donc PATEC, en 2013, les actions qui ont été menées, c'était donc d'opérationnaliser donc l'insectarium afin donc de produire des mâles stériles pour les différentes donc campagnes qui vont exister en Afrique donc de l'Ouest, qui seront donc dans les besoins d'utiliser donc des mâles stériles pour aller vers l'éradication. Voilà. Comme ça vient toujours pas. Voilà donc nos activités qui ont été menées pendant les 4 dernières années, c'était donc, comme je disais, l'opérationnalisation donc de l'insectarium. Deuxièmement, c'était donc de développer donc un atlas donc pour ce qui est donc des CC et des trypanosomoses donc pour le Burkina, atlas national. Et en dernières activités que nous avons eu à mener, c'était désolé, c'est trop rapide. Ok, donc je m'étais présenté. Et donc là, c'était juste pour montrer que le Burkina... I'm sorry. Voilà, donc je disais, le Burkina faisait partie donc des 6 pays qui ont mené. Et les activités, vous savez que ces activités nous ont permis de savoir qu'il y a 3 espèces donc, de glossines au Burkina. Glossina tachinodes, Glossina palpalis gambiensis et Glossina morsitans submorsitans. Et donc, il y a au Karma donc, le tiers du Burkina, le tiers du Burkina donc, qui est infesté donc, de glossines. Et pour les activités PATEC, ça concernait donc, cette zone-là, qui était autour donc, de 40 000 km². Comme résultat obtenu donc, pendant ces activités, à la fin donc, du programme PATEC au Burkina, c'était donc la réduction donc, de la densité des glossines, autour donc, de 92% donc, des densités, mais aussi donc, la réduction donc, de la prévalence donc, de la maladie au niveau donc, des animaux. Et ce qui est important, comme nous l'avons dit, il y avait aussi donc, la construction donc, d'un insectarium d'envergure qui est sous-régional pour donc, la production donc, de mâles stériles pour les différentes campagnes. Et donc, comme je disais, les 3 dernières années comme activité menée, c'était donc opérationnaliser l'insectarium pour disponibiliser donc des mâles stériles pour les différentes campagnes. Et donc, développer donc l'atlas donc de CT et puis donc de la maladie. Mais aussi, en dernière phase, donc c'était donc de faire des mises à jour donc des activités manquantes donc au niveau donc des terrains. Pour ce qui est donc de l'opérationnalisation donc de l'insectarium, il faut dire que nous, pour l'insectarium, nous avons mandat donc de produire pour les autres pays. Et donc, du coup, ce qui nous a impacté au niveau du Burkina est que tout ce qui était donc appui au niveau donc, du gouvernement, c'était centralisé donc, pour opérationnaliser donc, l'insectarium, qui constitue donc un mandat pour les pays. Et donc, du coup, juste après donc, la fin donc, du projet, donc, tout ce qui était donc, financement était focus, puisqu'il y a toute une direction générale qui a été créée donc, pour soutenir l'insectarium, pour opérationnaliser. Et donc, tout ce qui était fonds donc, du gouvernement était orienté donc, pour vraiment cette opérationnalisation. Et qui faisait qu'on n'a pas vraiment eu donc, assez de fonds pour répartir sur le terrain. Et malheureusement, vous savez qu'il y a 5 ans de cela, on a connu donc l'insécurité, qui fait que certaines zones sont donc difficiles d'accès. Et donc, ce que nous avons au niveau de l'insectarium, l'élevage a commencé en 2016, mais aujourd'hui, nous avons des espèces qui sont en élevage donc en masse. Il y a Glossina donc palpalis gambiensis et Glossina donc morsitans. Et pour ce qui est donc de l'espèce Glossina palpalis gambiensis, nous avons donc jusqu'à 4 souches. Et les 2 premières souches, c'est ce que nous avons donc utilisé pour donc, le démarrage donc, de l'élevage. Une source qui provenait donc de l'insectarium du Sept, une autre source qui provenait donc de l'insectarium donc de l'AIA, donc de Sevedov. Et nous avons créé nous-mêmes notre propre source à partir donc de mousses que nous avons capturées sur le terrain, que nous avons nommé ici donc la source IBD, donc à partir donc de mousses sauvages capturées sur le terrain, et créer une 4e source à partir donc de une source hybride, on va dire ça comme ça, à partir donc de la nouvelle source sauvage et donc de la vieille source qui existe donc au niveau du Sept. Donc nous avons pour donc l'espèce Glossina palpalis gambiensis 4 sources qui pourraient être utilisées en fonction donc de ce qu'on aura comme résultat sur le terrain dans un pays donné, donc une des sources pour pouvoir donc répondre à leurs besoins. Et donc la colonie actuelle pour donc, cette espèce est autour donc, de 950 000 donc, femelles. Il faut dire que pour ce qui est donc de Glossina palpalis gambiensis, l'élevage a commencé avec des mouches que nous avons pris donc, au niveau de l'insectarium du Sud-Est. Et la colonie actuelle est autour donc, de 2250. Il n'est pas facile pour l'élevage de Glossina morsitans sur morsitans, mais nous essayons donc, avec donc, de la recherche qui nous accompagne pour donc, pouvoir intensifier donc, sa production. Il faut le dire, comme nous avons pour mandat donc, de soutenir les différentes campagnes, pour les programmes d'éradication au niveau donc, du Sénégal, il faut dire que depuis 2017, nous avons commencé donc, à soutenir ces programmes donc, au niveau du Sénégal en envoyant autour donc, de 50 000 pupes mâles stériles par semaine. Et donc, à la date d'aujourd'hui, depuis 2017 jusqu'à nos jours, nous avons envoyé autour donc, de 8,5 millions donc, de mâles stériles pour les programmes donc, du Sénégal. Le programme donc, prendra fin d'ici, les envois vont prendre fin d'ici fin septembre. Et donc, nous osons ou nous espérons que nous avons pu soutenir donc, ce programme et qui a atteint aujourd'hui donc, l'éradication donc, dans la zone cible au niveau donc, des Niayes. Et donc, il faut aussi noter qu'au regard donc, de ce que nous avons comme compétences, aussi au regard de ce que nous avons comme fait, comme appui donc, au niveau du programme Sénégal, et aussi appui donc, au niveau donc, de ce que nous avons reçu de l'AIA, nous sommes devenus donc, un centre collaborateur donc, de l'AIA depuis donc, 2011, et en termes donc, de production en masse, mais aussi donc, de développement donc, des stratégies de lutte avec une composante SIT. Et donc, il faut dire que des initiatives sont en cours pour donc, pouvoir donc, domestiquer ou élever d'autres espèces, notamment donc, pour ce qui est donc, de Glossina tachinodes, qui constitue aussi une autre espèce donc, qui cause plus donc, de dégâts au niveau donc, de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Donc, deuxième activité qui a été menée dans ces 3 dernières années, c'était le développement donc, de l'Atlas, qui a commencé donc, depuis les années, donc, depuis 2019, et dont les résultats ont été publiés donc, en 2022. Donc les données ont utilisé, donc c'était donc des données soit issues donc des activités de lutte sur le terrain ou donc issues donc des recherches qui ont été menées sur le terrain, donc allant donc de 1990 à 2019, qui ont été utilisées pour développer donc ces atlas. Et donc comme résultat obtenu à partir donc de cet atlas est que nous avons au Burkina, ces données donc plus sur 20 ans ont montré que nous avons 4 espèces au niveau donc, du Burkina, Glossina tachinodes, Palpalis gambiensis, morsitans sur morsitans et midicorum, dont les plus importantes donc, étaient donc Glossina tachinodes et Glossina Palpalis gambiensis. Donc au niveau donc, parasitologique, des activités qui ont été menées en utilisant donc, plusieurs donc, méthodes de diagnostic, notamment donc, le Bificote, la PCR et donc, l'ELISA, ont permis donc, de montrer que quand même dans toutes les zones ou les départements où il y a eu donc, des diagnostics, il y a donc eu présence donc, de la maladie, même dans des zones où il n'y a pas donc de tsetse. Et donc, en montrant ici, par exemple, l'importance donc, de la prévalence, notamment au niveau donc Bificote, autour donc, de 6%, PCR au niveau donc, de 30% et ELISA au niveau donc, de 42%. Et donc, les espèces qui ont été rencontrées, ce sont les 3 espèces. Et donc, les majoritaires. Ok. Majoritairement, donc, Trypanosoma vivax et Trypanosoma congolensis. Et donc, après le développement donc, de cet atlas, il y avait des données qui manquaient, notamment au niveau d'un certain nombre d'espèces animales. Par exemple, pour les porcs, on a remarqué que sur les 20 années donc, de données, il y avait des données qui manquaient au niveau donc, des porcs. Et donc, nous avons, à partir de 2019, commencé à collecter des données donc, dans des zones d'élevage de porcs, notamment dans la zone de Bobo-Dioulasso. La zone donc, de Bobo-Dioulasso, vous voyez ici, où nous avons donc non seulement collecté pour les données donc, atomo, mais aussi donc, parasito, qui ont montré que nous avons donc présence donc, de glossine, même si la densité était donc faible, autour donc, de 0,7 donc, par glossine par pièce et par jour. Et au niveau donc, parasitologique, nous avons observé qu'au niveau donc, de prévalence active, c'était nul. Au niveau donc, des porcs que nous avons donc eu à prélever, mais au niveau donc ELISA, les prévalences allaient donc jusqu'à 50%. Donc avec les 3 espèces donc, qui ont été rencontrées au niveau donc ELISA. Et donc pour ce qui est de l'hématocrite, nous avons donc observé qu'il y avait une différence donc, entre l'hématocrite donc, des porcs qui étaient donc négatifs donc, et positifs au niveau donc ELISA. Donc les résultats ont permis donc, de comprendre que les porcs étaient aussi donc, impliqués au niveau donc, de la problématique donc, de la trypano. Et donc pour les actions donc, de lutte, il faut donc considérer donc, cette espèce donc, animale. Donc, en plus de ça, pour la mise à jour donc, des données, nous sommes aussi impliqués donc, dans le cadre dans les activités donc, combat, hein, parmi donc, les 19 donc, États qui sont impliqués. Et donc, pour nous, au niveau donc, du Burkina, c'est de renforcer donc, les activités donc, de surveillance donc, de la maladie, mais aussi donc, faire ces mises à jour que nous avons déjà commencé depuis 2019 hein, pour combler donc, les gaps, mais aussi évaluer donc, au niveau socio-économique l'impact de la trypanosome au niveau donc, du Burkina Faso. Et par la suite, donc, développer donc, une stratégie nationale donc, de lutte avec donc, une feuille de route. Comme résultat, là, c'est les activités donc, de PATEC. Hein. Ici, tout ce que vous voyez comme vert, ce sont les zones où nous avons eu donc, à capturer ou à récolter donc, des données qui étaient donc, des données manquantes par rapport donc, à ce que nous avons développé donc, comme Atlas et donc, qui permettront donc, de faire une mise à jour donc, des activités en développant donc, un nouveau Atlas qui vont être publiés très bientôt, à la fin donc, du projet PATEC en 2025. Et donc, comme résultat préliminaire obtenu, vous voyez, sur le terrain, ce que nous avons fait comme collecte sur le terrain récemment dans le cadre des activités de PATEC. Les collectes ont été faites donc, sur 5 espèces donc, animales. Il y avait donc les animaux, les bovins, les porcs, les moutons, les chèvres et donc les chevaux, hein, qui étaient donc, les prélèvements ont été faits et analysés. Et les résultats ont montré que c'était uniquement pour les données préliminaires que nous avons, c'était uniquement donc, les bovins et les chèvres qui étaient donc infestés. Là, c'est les résultats préliminaires. Il nous reste donc à faire la PCR pour voir au niveau donc ce qu'on aura sur au niveau laboratoire. Et la prévalence au niveau donc animal était autour donc de 0,7%. C'est les bificotes. Hein, il reste donc à faire la PCR. Et avec donc les 2 espèces dominantes, Trypanos vivax et puis donc congolais. Au niveau donc entomo, les résultats ont montré que c'est les 2 espèces, comme je disais, dominantes qu'on a rencontrées donc dans ces zones qui avaient donc des données manquantes. Il s'agissait donc de Palpalis gambiensis et Tachinodes avec une densité qui allait donc de 1,2 par pièce et par jour. Donc nous avons aussi donc rencontré donc des vecteurs mécaniques comme les tabanidés, les stomox, mais avec une densité donc faible. Voilà ce que nous avons pu mener donc pendant les 3 années. Hein. Et donc ce qui est planifié donc pour les années à venir, disons les 2 années à venir, c'est de finaliser donc ces collectes donc, de données, notamment dans la zone Soura, qui n'était pas prévue initialement donc, dans nos collectes, mais qui considère donc, qui doit être donc, des données qui doivent être capitalisées donc, dans les cas d'un combat. Donc nous devons repartir donc, dans la zone nord donc, du Burkina pour collecter des échantillons sur des dromadaires pour voir un peu donc Trypanos Soura. Et aussi donc finaliser les analyses donc, PCR afin donc, de voir les infections au niveau animal, des échantillons animaux et TT que nous avons collectés. Et refaire donc la mise à jour donc de l'Atlas à partir donc des données que nous avons collectées et donc par la suite développer donc une stratégie donc de lutte avec donc une feuille de route qui donc va accompagner. Hein? Donc comme je l'ai dit, ce qu'il nous reste à faire donc pour les années à venir, donc développer une nouvelle espèce domestiquée qui est donc Tachinodes, qui constitue, par exemple, les Ghana nous a donc approché pour voir si on pouvait les accompagner donc, en termes donc, de pupe mâle stérile donc de Tachinodes. Malheureusement, nous ne l'avons pas. Et donc, on a un échange avec donc, nos partenaires comme l'AIA qui essaie donc de nous accompagner pour voir comment on pourrait donc, faire domestiquer donc, cette nouvelle espèce. Ce n'est pas simple. On a tenté une première fois l'année passée, mais ce n'est pas aussi simple que ça pour domestiquer des nouvelles espèces. On tentera encore. Et comme c'est notre rôle, on n'a pas le choix que de les faire pour soutenir donc, les différents pays. Et voilà. Ben, ce qu'il faut noter aussi comme difficulté, hein, il faut aussi noter que nous avons donc ces activités d'envoi qui vont s'arrêter en septembre pour le soutien donc, du Sénégal. Hein, et donc, du coup, si nous arrêtons les envois au Sénégal, si nous n'avons pas un autre pays qui serait dans les besoins donc, en mal stérile, nous n'aurons pas le choix donc, de faire quoi? De ramener donc, la colonie à un niveau donc, acceptable, soutenable pour les pays, parce que nous produisons pour les différentes campagnes, mais s'il n'y a pas donc, un pays qui est dans les besoins, on va les ramener donc, à une colonie soutenable pour les pays, ben, juste pour peut-être faire la recherche en attendant. Parce que rien ne sert donc de continuer d'avoir une grande colonie et produire pour qu'aucun pays ne soit donc intéressé. Donc c'est un peu ce qu'il faut donner aussi comme information aux gens. Donc, il faut le dire aussi que nous avons connu, en tout cas cette année 2023, hein, donc le décès donc, de notre doyen, Dr ISCTRC, en mars passé, ben, qui malheureusement était donc, le coordinateur donc, PATEC au Burkina, et qui après était donc aussi le directeur général de l'ISCTRC de Bobo, campagne d'éradication de la moute CC et de la trypanosomose. Donc nous disons c'est vraiment meurtri. Et c'est vraiment, comme on le dit souvent, c'est un baobab qui part et qui nous laisse. Et donc nous pensons, en tout cas, il nous a laissé vraiment beaucoup de choses, surtout l'ISCTRC, et que nous pensons que nous pourrons donc relever donc les défis et pouvoir donc soutenir ou disons pour ce qui est des activités de lutte au niveau du Burkina Faso. Donc nous vous remercions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Smaila. Now, let's take a decision. We need to have a discussion, but we want to defer it till tomorrow. And you know, tomorrow we're having the opening ceremony. So in order that we will not be behind time, we want to suggest that we push on with our presentations after a health break. We'll have some few minutes to do some up and down movement here and there, but we are not going out. We just get up and stretch ourselves, stretch our legs. I don't know if there's somebody who can give us some simple exercise that we can do to keep our health strong, you know. So let's be on our feet. Up. Maybe we can just do some push-up this way. There's usually a way of making in our country say cheche kule, cheche kofisa, kofi langa, kofisa langa, langa ti langa, kum alele kum alele kum alele. When you do that, you get yourself well stretched out. So let's say cheche kule, cheche kofisa, kofisa langa, langa ti langa, kum alele, kum alele, cheche kule, cheche kofisa, kofisa langa, langa ti langa, kum alele, kum alele. Is that enough? Okay, let's sit down. So our next speaker, we will invite Dr. Tiomo Bakun to give us a country report. No, yeah, there's a change on your program. You have Aji Marieme. She's not around, and in her place we have Dr. Tiomo Bakun. Am I pronouncing it very well?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you correct.
But it's okay.
That's right. That's right. So we expect the next presenter to start and let us hear.
So my presentation is in French, but it is English, but I'm going to do in French. It's okay. Okay. Oui, comme l'a dit le modérateur, la coordinatrice du programme national de lutte contre la drépanosomiose a eu un empêchement de dernière minute. Du coup, elle m'a chargé de faire la présentation. Comme le cas dans beaucoup de pays, au Sénégal, la santé et la production animale est supportée par le ministère de l'élevage et de la production animale. De ce fait, il y a un programme national de lutte contre la drépanosomiose au Sénégal qui est mis en place et qui est assuré par ce ministère. Et ce ministère a donc des collaborateurs tels que l'ISRA au Sénégal, où quand même je suis chargé de recherche là-bas. Et ce programme, l'objectif principal de ce programme est donc d'avoir zéro glucine et de trypanosome sur l'ère de la distribution des glucines au Sénégal. Et on se pose la question où on trouve des glucines au Sénégal. L'aire de répartition des glucines au Sénégal est d'environ de 61 000 km². Il y a la zone des Niayes qui représente 1000 km², où quand même une éradication est en cours. On a la zone du Sine Saloum, incluant la Gambie, où on a 5000 km² couverts par deux espèces de glucines, à savoir Glucina palpalis gambiense et Glucina morstans et morstans. Et on a la région du sud au Sénégal, où quand même il y a environ 50 km², couverte par 3 espèces de glucine, Glucina palpalis gambiense, Glucina morsitans submorsitans et Glucina longipalpis. Il faut savoir que le programme de lutte contre la trypanosomose et les glucines a démarré dans la zone des Niayes en 2010. Et la méthode utilisée est la lutte intégrée. Donc, la lutte intégrée composant en fait l'utilisation d'insecticides, aussi donc que ce soit des pull-on ou de la pulvérisation par sol ou aérienne et l'utilisation ainsi de maltestérides. Donc il faut noter que la méthode de lutte utilisée dans la zone des Niayes est une lutte intégrée. Et juste pour des raisons pratiques, cette zone de lutte est divisée en blocs, où on a donc 4 blocs représentés ici. Et donc, le rapport que je vais vous faire concerne seulement les 2 dernières années, 2021 et 2022. Et qu'est-ce que nous avons fait dans ces 2 dernières années? On a donc contrôlé les populations résiduelles de glucine dans cette zone, mené des surveillances entomologiques, surveillances parasitologiques, et aussi une surveillance des bioindicateurs pour regarder l'impact de ce contrôle sur l'environnement. Et concernant donc le contrôle des populations de mouches résiduelles, des pièges imprégnés des pièges d'écran imprégnés d'insecticides ont été donc placés tout au long quand même du rivière au niveau du bloc 2 de la zone de Niayes suite à la capture de 9 mouches sauvages en 2021. Et en 2022, 23 nouveaux pièges ont été placés ainsi que 42 écrans d'imprégnés dans ce même bloc suite à la capture de 2 mouches sauvages. On a aussi fait une pulvérisation par sol et également des pulvérisations aériennes utilisant des drones dans cette zone, tout au long des habitats favorables au développement de glucine. À ce jour, depuis le début du projet maintenant, en 2021, environ 9 millions de mouches ont été lâchées. 2022, on aura 10 millions de mouches. Et le lâcher se fait donc par voie aérienne. Et aussi des lâchers au sol aussi ont été effectués dans cette zone. Concernant la surveillance entomologique, en 2021, environ 363 pièges ont été déployés et suivis, dont 289 ont été suivis tous les 15 jours, 74 tous les mois. Et en 2022, 339 pièges ont été déployés, incluant donc 230 pièges qui ont été suivis tous les 15 jours et 109 tous les mois. À ce jour, concernant le suivi entomologique, dans un des blocs, qui est donc le bloc 1 des Gaillards, depuis 2012, on n'a pas collecté de mouches là-bas. Dans le bloc 2, on n'a pas capturé de mouches sauvages depuis 2017 dans un des villages de Bargny. Depuis janvier 2022, dans notre village. Donc on peut dire que dans ce bloc 2-là, depuis janvier 2022, on n'a pas collecté de mouches sauvages. Et dans le bloc 3, qui est représenté ici en bleu et aussi en violet, depuis août 2021 on n'a pas capturé de mouches sauvages là-bas. Concernant la surveillance parasitologique, on n'a pas détecté de parasites dans la zone de Gaillard en 2021 et en 2022 aussi. Et la surveillance des parasites se fait donc par détection du parasite entre l'âme et la mêle sous microscopie. En même temps aussi, on fait aussi des PCR à partir des bificordes. Et aussi, il y a le sero-monitoring qu'on fait à la détection des anticorps. Et suivant ces résultats-là, ce qui confirme donc l'impact positif du contrôle sur l'incidence de la trypanosomose dans la zone des Niayes. Maintenant, quel est l'impact sur l'environnement pour cette lutte? Pour mesurer l'impact de l'environnement, 5 sites ont été sélectionnés dans cette zone-là, 4 dans la zone de contrôle où on fait la lutte et un site dans la zone où on ne fait pas donc, de lutte, qu'on a pris comme zone contrôle. Et donc, les sorties de ces résultats-là de surveillance des bioindicateurs nous ont montré que donc 2 des 10 espèces non ciblées par la lutte ont connu en fait une diminution temporaire de leur densité comparée donc à la situation initiale de cette lutte. Ce qui donc reflète un impact négatif donc, de ce projet sur l'environnement. Je ne saurais terminer donc sans remercier tous nos partenaires, que ce soit donc techniques et financiers, à savoir le CIRDES, le CIRAD, l'IBD, et aussi en mention spéciale au programme Joint IAIFO, et au nom de la coordinatrice donc, du programme de contrôle de la lutte de glucine et de la trypanosomose au Sénégal. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bakou. Another round of applause for Dr. Bakou for standing in for Mariama Gagny. Now, our next presenter will be Dr. Modibo Diarra. Dr. Modibo Diarra, please come up to the stage if you are around. Do we have Dr. Ernew B. Ochi around? Get ready for the next presentation. From South Sudan. How about Beneze Lutigi Malinda? Okay, so you get ready for the next 2 presentations. Whilst we wait for the IT department to load up the next presentation. So we are trying to push as much as possible so that we can finish at least 3B for today, so that at least tomorrow after the opening session we'll be able to finish up with 3C. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, you go carry on. Yeah, bye.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je vais faire ma présentation en français. Moi, je suis Dr. Modibo Diarra, de la Direction nationale des services vétérinaires. Donc, je vais vous présenter le rapport national sur les progrès réalisés par le Mali dans la lutte contre les CC depuis 2019. Donc, comme vous le savez, au Mali, au niveau du Mali, la lutte contre les TC est portée par la cellule de coordination de la lutte contre les mousses TC, une cellule qui est issue de la fusion de 2 projets. Il y avait le projet de lutte contre les mousses TC, les trypanosomoses animales, qui avait une envergure nationale et qui était localisé à Sigassou et bénéficiait d'un financement sur le budget national. Et l'autre projet, c'était le projet PATEC qui avait un financement. Donc à la fin de ces projets, l'État malien a fusionné les 2 entités pour former une seule cellule qui est rattachée maintenant à la Direction nationale des services vétérinaires. Slide. Voilà, ça c'est le plan de présentation. Slide. Voilà, donc au Mali, la zone infestée par les STC, c'est à peu près 240 000 km². Ces zones sous les activités de contrôle sont 20 732 km² qui couvrent les cercles de Sigasso et Kadiolo, dans la région de Sigasso. Présentement, c'est dans cette zone-là que nos actions sont focalisées. Donc, la population des bovins, environ 12 848 695 têtes en 2021. Les maladies animales importantes classées par ordre sont là, la peste des petits, la peste bovine, la péripneumonie contagieuse bovine, la peste des petits ruminants, la fièvre aphtèse, la fièvre de la vallée du Rift, la brucellose, tuberculose, raish, grippe aviaire, maladie de Newcastle, charrois, la trypanosomose animale. Slide. Donc, de 2019 à maintenant, il n'y a pas eu d'action majeure de suppression de la population de STC au Mali. Cependant, il y a eu des actions ponctuelles au niveau de certaines localités, notamment sur l'axe Sigasso, Bobo Dioulasso. Donc, on a eu à mener des activités ponctuelles. Mais présentement, nos activités sont focalisées sur un projet sous-régional qui regroupe les 3 pays, le Mali, le Burkina Faso et la Côte d'Ivoire, dans une zone qu'on appelle la zone spéciale économique, au niveau des 3 frontières. Donc, cette zone d'étude couvre 128 000 km environ. Et les caractéristiques de l'enquête, dans cette zone, nous sommes en train de mener dans le cadre du Comatao le contrôle des maladies animales transfrontalières, qui est la composante 4 du PREDIP, financée par l'Union européenne. Donc, dans le cadre de ce projet-là, donc les 3 pays se sont mis en accord pour faire les essais tests de lutte contre, dans le cadre de la stratégie régionale de lutte contre les trypanosomoses et les maladies transmises par les tiques. Donc, ils ont mis en place un petit projet d'essai pour faire l'état des lieux des maladies de la trypanosomose et des maladies transmises par les tiques dans cette zone. Donc, au cours de ces enquêtes-là, il y a eu 3 enquêtes dans la zone. Donc, voici les localités. En tout cas, pour la première enquête, voici les localités. Pour la première enquête, c'est que la première carte. Return. Pour la première enquête, voici les zones d'intervention, les localités qui ont été visitées. Je disais qu'il y a eu 3 enquêtes. Donc les résultats qui sont là, c'est pour seulement la première enquête. Les 2 autres enquêtes, les résultats sont en cours de traitement. Donc on n'a pas pu les mettre ici. Slide.
Voilà, ici, 2 more minutes to go.
Voilà, ici, vous avez la carte de prévalence issue des enquêtes. Et en bas, vous avez la carte entomologique, la densité apparente, la distribution des CC. Slide. Voilà. Les résultats de contrôle, bon, les résultats des mouches ont été capturés au niveau de 8 points de contrôle. Donc, sur 55 points de contrôle visités, nous avons obtenu 8 points positifs. Et 2 espèces de glossines ont été capturées. Il y a 24 glossina palpalis gambiensis, dont 20 mâles et 4 femelles, et 15 glossina techinodes, dont 12 mâles et 3 femelles ont été identifiés. La densité. Retourne. Ah, il trouve. Oui. Retourne. Voilà. Slide. Voilà, ok. La densité apparente, les densités apparentes ont été de 0,44 glossines par pièce pour le jeu palpalis gambier et 0,30 pour les tachinodes. La densité globale, toute espèce confondue, a été de 0,69 pièges par jour. L'essentiel des captures de mouches a eu lieu sur les cours d'eau situés à la frontière avec le Mali et le Burkina Faso d'une part, et d'autre part, le Mali et la Côte d'Ivoire. Les faibles taux de capture pourraient s'expliquer par les actions intérieures, c'est des actions de lutte intérieure menées dans la zone, et aussi par les effets de l'anthropisation. Slide. En plus de ces résultats, nous avons tenu 2 ateliers de sensibilisation des bénéficiaires, un à Zégoua et dans le cercle de Kadiolo, un autre cercle. La réalisation des cartes thématiques avec l'appui de la FAO est en cours. La mise en place d'une base de données qui sera régulière, qui est en train d'être régulièrement mise à jour. et l'élaboration des rapports généraux du projet qui est en cours. Parce que le projet s'étendait sur une année, de septembre 2022 à septembre 2023. Donc, en plus de ça, il y a la construction des capacités. Donc, il y a eu la participation des deux cadres de la DNSP au cours régional de formation sur l'évaluation socio-économique de la réaction à la glossine tenue à Dakar en 2023. La participation des deux cadres au cours régional de formation AEA sur la mise en place des bases de données sur la glossine qui a eu lieu à Harare en 2022. Participation d'un cadre de la DNSP au stage de formation sur l'analyse des données entomologiques et SIG organisé par PATEC UA à Dakar en 2019. Et présentement, il y a l'octroi au Mali, il y a un lot d'équipements d'entomologie dont la valeur s'élève à 11 932 €, dont le bon de commande a été émis par l'AIA. Donc la réception de ce matériel est attendue. Slide. Donc, comme document élaboré, nous avons notre plan, la deuxième génération de notre plan stratégique de lutte contre les moustiques et les trypanosomoses sur la période 2022-2023. On a élaboré également le projet de lutte contre les trypanosomoses animales dans les zones infestées par les mouches au Mali. 5 ans. Il y a le projet essai pilote à petite échelle pour l'exécution de la stratégie nationale de lutte contre la trypanosomose et les maladies transmises par tiques dans la zone spéciale Sikobo, Korogo, Bobo Dioulasso et Sikasso. Et en dernier lieu, il y a le projet d'évaluation de gestion de la chimiorésistance aux trypanocides dans la lutte contre la trypanosomose animale dans le cercle de Kadiolo, Kolonyeba, Sikasso, financé sur le budget national dans le cadre du ISCTRC sur une période de 3 ans, 2022-2025. Les activités de plaidoyer. Donc, il y a eu la publication d'un article intitulé « Détection de la résistance aux médicaments couramment utilisés dans le traitement de la trypanosomose des bovins élevés dans le cercle de Kadiolo au Mali ». Slide. Les défis et actions correctives proposées. Bon, comme défi, il y a l'insuffisance des montants alloués sur le budget spécial d'investissement BC au service. Et comme solution proposée, recherche de financement et mise en œuvre du projet de lutte contre les trypanosomoses animales dans les zones infestées par les moustiques au Mali. Insuffisance qualitative et quantitative des ressources humaines. Il y a la dotation de la cellule en ressources humaines. Et il y a en dehors l'insuffisance des moyens logistiques et équipements. Donc, il faut une dotation de la cellule en termes de moyens logistiques. Slide. Intervenants internationaux. Donc, les intervenants sont déjà les partenaires intervenants. Il y a PATEC, donc avec la participation d'un cadre de la DNSP au stage de formation sur l'analyse des données entomologiques et SIG à Dakar. Et le PREDIP, le projet régional de dialogue et d'investissement pour le pastoralisme et la transhumance au Sahel et dans les pays côtiers de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Donc, à travers la collecte des données entomologiques et parasitologiques dans la frontière Sikasso, Korogo, Bobo et Bobo Dioulasso. L'Agence internationale de l'énergie atomique, donc à travers l'octroi de matériel et équipements entomologiques et le renforcement des capacités des agents à travers les différents projets les différents cours de formation. Slide. Les activités prévues pour 2024. Pour 2024, il est prévu la recherche de financement du projet de lutte intégré contre les trypanosomoses animales dans la zone infestée des mouches TC au Mali. Donc, on suppose que le financement est acquis. Maintenant, le budget provisoire, c'est 6 milliards, environ un peu plus de 6 milliards sur 5 ans. Donc, on va rechercher auprès de l'État et ses partenaires. La poursuite des activités du projet régional de l'AIA RAF 5084, donc à travers le renforcement des capacités de la cellule, sera maintenant, et les sources de financement, c'est l'AIA à travers le RAF 5087. La poursuite de la mise en œuvre des activités du projet évaluation et gestion de la chimiorésistance aux trypanocides dans les luttes intégrées contre la trypanosomose animale dans les zones de Sikasso et Tan. À travers un étudiant, l'inscription d'un étudiant en thèse doctorat qui va commencer ses enquêtes sur le terrain et l'identification des foyers de chimio-résistance aux tribanoïdes dans les cercles de Kadiolo, Kolondiaba et Sigassou. Le budget pour 2024 est prévu pour environ 20 996 136 francs, financé par le budget national, voilà, à travers le Fonds compétitif pour la recherche et l'innovation technologique, FCRIT. Slide. Activité, voilà, achèvement des activités du projet. Voilà, achèvement des activités du projet pilote à petite échelle pour l'exécution. La base de données est mise à jour. Les capacités, les cartes thématiques sont élaborées. Le rapport d'activité du projet est disponible pour un montant de 14 980 500 francs, financé par Comatao Prédip. Slide. Voilà, merci. Je vous remercie pour votre aimable attention. Merci.
Thank you very much, Dr. Modibo Diarra. Now we call on Erneo B. Ochi, and then one more presentation, then we close for the day. So we have two more, that's 20 minutes, we should close. Dr. Erneo Ochi of South Sudan. If he's not there, then we have one more presentation to go. Okay, I don't think we have Erneo B. Ochi. Are you the one? Okay, so you are next. Then we call on Innocent Nkangala of Malawi to come on. Ebenezer Lutege Malinda. Sorry, I nearly escaped you. So this will be the last presenter for the day, so that we can close. Yes, yeah. Just have a patience, some little patience for us.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Deusdedit Timalulu from VVBD, Vector and Vector-Borne Diseases Research Institute. Formerly it was known as SESE and the Trypanosomiasis Research Institute. It is based in Tanga. My institute is the one who executed the EAR project and successfully eradicated the SESE fly in Zanzibar through SIT. So I'll be presenting on behalf of Dr. Benezet Lutege Malinda, who is the director, assistant director of vector-borne diseases at the Department of Veterinary Services, working on vector-borne diseases, who was supposed to be here, but unfortunately, due to other commitments, he failed to attend. So I'll be presenting on SESE flies and the trypanosomiasis in Tanzania, the current status and control approaches. SESE and the trypanosomiasis is the second vector-borne diseases after the tick and tick-borne diseases, the second most economic important disease, where it exposes 4.4 million livestock and 4 million people at the risk of contracting SESE-borne trypanosomiasis. The area estimated to be infested by SESE flies is about 1/3 of the total land, which is a reduction from 2/3 reported in studies in 1960s. And we have 7 SESE species infesting. Sorry. Yeah. So these are the 2 reference maps we have in Tanzania. The one produced by Ford and Katondo in 1977, referring that the area infested by SESE flies 2/3. And We have a new map by DAFA, which was published in 2013, showing that this area of Sese fly infesting is about 1/3, and most of the infested areas are constrained to the protected areas. Nearly 40% of the suitable land for grazing and the crop production is estimated to be Sese infested, and AAT Onagana is still endemic in most in the area in Sese risk areas, and heart is only the heart cases are decreasing. They are only reported in the western and southern highlands and northern parts of Tanzania. Currently, we have only 20 rhodesiense heart cases in the past 12 years. The drivers of the current Sese distribution. The first is the increase in human and livestock population. In 1960, when we got independent, we were only 6 million. But the current national census shows us we are about 60 million. So this increase have the increase in population in cattle have influenced the creation of new settlement areas, and in doing that, clearing more area for cultivation, hence the destruction of the Sese habitat. Also, the climate change. We believe it have influenced the Sese distribution through changing in rainfall patterns from the preferred areas or shifting to other non-preferred areas maybe. So, but also as a country we are a recipient of support from EAA and FAO and the other development partners through technical and equipment support and through coordinated research projects. But also the discovery and the wide application of insecticide, particularly the dipping, have tremendously reduced the Sese population. The current Sese anti-responses control approaches, we have a One Health approach, which is coordinated under the Office of the Prime Minister, which brings all the stakeholders. We have sectoral ministries, the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries, the Ministry of Health, the local government authority, the Ministry of Tourism and Natural Resource Management, and also the private sectors. But Sese control is coordinated by the Department of Veterinary Services, which is under the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries, and it is where the party coordinator is located. But also we have a new regulation, which is called the Acaricide Application and Management Regulation of 2019, which instills mandatory dipping for control of tick and Sese flies. Also, there have been massive campaigns against vector and vector-borne diseases through application of acaricide and insecticides to livestock since 2018. The ministry, the government, through the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries, have been constructing and rehabilitating deep tanks, but also procuring acaricides. Currently, there are about 3,100 functional dips located in Sese and ticks risk areas. Also, the government procures for this year The plan is to procure 56,000 liters of calcite, which is equivalent to $100 million. The use of insecticide-treated target is widely used in protected areas, rather than in non-protected areas, the community. I'm not saying that it is not used, but it is used in small scale. But also, there are surveillances in infested areas, especially in the areas of where the interface of wildlife, human, and animal. So what is the impact of these all initiatives? There have been reduction in tick density by 40%, along with the reduction of magnitude of tick-borne diseases by 30%. In a study conducted recently in northern eastern Tanzania in the Serengeti ecosystem, only 15 cases out of 567 were reported, but in another studies in those areas, there have been reported high usage of trypanosides. But also the rhodesiense heart cases in Tanzania, we have only one form of sleeping sickness, the rhodesiense, and the cases have been reducing tremendously. As I said before, from 55 cases reported in 2008 to only 21 cases between 2011 and 2022. Sorry. The challenges. There is no structured study to assess the socioeconomic impact of dipping, but also on sese and the trypanosomosis. But we, like others the earlier presenters, we are facing the decreased fund directed towards sese and the trypanosomosis research and control. There is non-existence of the National sese and AAT Atlas. So a platform like this has been useful in learning from other countries. So we will soon find our way to develop ours. The way forward, where the country is open to continuous research collaboration with stakeholders, but also to conduct passive and active surveillance. We are planning also to roll out the monitoring of drug use and to check traces for drug resistance occurrence. To implement the community-based control. By focusing on the community-based, we are sure that the control programs will be owned by people, and engaging them is a way to promote sustainability. But also we are planning to develop and update National sese and AAT Atlas like other countries. Who have presented before, but also we are planning to continue routine refresher training to vet and para-vet workers. Thank you for listening. I would like to thank the AU IBA.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
For invitation to attend and present in this conference. Thank you so much.
A round of applause. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to plead with you. I had mentioned that he would be the last presenter, but my attention was drawn to somebody online waiting. There's somebody online, and I'm told that the fellow is online. Let's take him, and probably the last one in 20 minutes, then we will have finished up with session B3, and we'll be left with session BC tomorrow. I think that will be a proper end of it. Once the buses are waiting for us, let us just give it a trial. So let's get the one online to come on. Then after that, do we have Abba Samuel? Then after that, do we have Abba Samuel? Then after that, do we have Abba Samuel? Then who is speaking? Okay, we have Abba Samuel online. So no. We have you waiting. Innocent is online. We are expecting Innocent to come online from Malawi.
My slides, 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 my slides.
There seems to be a virus in our system.
Sorry, colleagues. Sorry.
The last. Online.
Hello. Hello.
Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Thanks so much. Now we'll call on the last speaker to be on the podium.
Thank you, Mr. the Moderator, to give me the floor. I'm the last, but not the least. I will first thank the organization, the good organization of this session. The food was very nice. We appreciate. But my particular thank is to the General, Dr. Kabayo, who give us the history of our animal trypanosome, African trypanosomosis, the structure that manage this aspect, and the way to redynamizing the national Rex and African structure. Thank you, Dr. Kabayo. Je voudrais également remercier toute la communauté internationale, l'AEA, le FAO, la FAO, où je fais un clin d'œil à Gildagno, l'Organisation mondiale de la santé animale, l'IND, avec tout le temps que vous donnez pour cette problématique qui nous est très chère en Afrique. Je vous remercie énormément. Sans oublier les partenaires techniques, le CIRAT, Alain. Sincèrement, merci pour l'appui que vous nous donnez au quotidien. Je voudrais commencer par dire que le Cameroun est un pays emblématique pour ce qui est de la trypanosomose africaine. Nous avons eu des cas historiques de la maladie du sommeil. D'ailleurs, le Dr Jamoui avait déposé ses valises. Ici, j'ai mon frère qui va présenter cet aspect, qui est responsable d'une unité de contrôle de la trypanosomose humaine africaine. Mais en ce qui concerne la trypanosomose animale, c'est depuis 1943 que nous avons diagnostiqué au Cameroun les premiers cas. Et pour cet aspect, bien évidemment, John Kabayo nous a dit les conditions sur lesquelles nos structures ont été mises en place. C'est vrai, il m'a été demandé de présenter le progrès des activités depuis 2020, mais je suis convaincu qu'à côté de la progression de ces activités, monsieur le modérateur, j'ai le devoir de présenter l'évolution des recommandations d'Abuja en 2019.
Six minutes more.
Il n'y a pas de problème, I'm the list. You are a very good moderator, so it's not a problem for the time. Donc du coup, je voudrais dire que après l'identification après le diagnostic du premier cas de la trypanosomose animale en 1943, le Cameroun a créé, dans les conditions que Kabayo nous a dit, une structure spécialisée dans la lutte contre la trypanosomose animale. J'ai désigné la mission spéciale d'éradication des glossines en 1974. Il a bien exprimé sur sa courbe. On constate que pendant cette période, les questions de trypano étaient en train de remonter. Bref, c'est une structure autonome basée dans la Damawa qui s'occupe essentiellement de cet aspect. Nous avons une équipe d'une vingtaine de collaborateurs en permanence et bien évidemment le gouvernement camerounais, différent de bien d'autres, contribue chaque année pour l'évolution du suivi de cette maladie. La situation du Cameroun est environ les 2 tiers du Cameroun sont infestés par les glossines. Nous avons des zones de contrôle, telles que vous le voyez, pour protéger nos 12 millions de bétail. Les maladies animales prioritaires, comme vous le constatez, sont la PPCB, la PPR, la fièvre afteuse, mais la trypano n'est pas classée. Mais on le dit bien, pour une maladie qui a une structure toute particulière, on n'avait pas réellement besoin de la classer. Mais dans le cadre du contrôle de parcours progressif, tel que le Conseil nous a édicté de nous positionner, nous constatons que le Cameroun se trouve au niveau 1, bien que les activités durent de près de 50 ans. Le Cameroun, de manière globale, se trouve au niveau 1. Mais quand nous essayons de faire le zonage, nous constatons que l'Adamawa, qui a été sujet de plusieurs activités de lutte, se trouverait au niveau 2 du PCP, et l'extrême nord du pays, où on ne voit plus de glossines, mais la maladie reste présente, serait au niveau 3, si on s'en tient aux éléments à suivre pour l'évaluation du parcours de contrôle progressif. Sur les activités suivies pendant la période de référence, nous constatons que nous avons fait plein de tests sérologiques. Nous avons fait des tests sérologiques et la base de données consolidée nous a permis de mettre en évidence la présence des vecteurs mécaniques qui s'imposent en l'absence des glossines. Et donc, de manière globale, nous avons une séroprévalence qui varie entre 2 et 38% pendant la période de référence, alors qu'en 2019, cette séroprévalence variait jusqu'à 74% dans certaines localités. Pour ce qui est des contrôles des activités, nous réalisons que nous avons près de 8 millions d'hectares de pâturage sous contrôle, avec près d'1 million de bovins traités depuis 2019, traités par les services, parce que les éleveurs contribuent énormément au traitement. Ces éléments ne sont pas pris en compte. Et près de 5 millions d'hectares de pâturage sont contrôlés à travers les écrans. Plus de 10 000 écrans ont été déployés et 10 000 mètres de livestock fence ont été mis en place pour le contrôle des élevages laitiers, qui devient une priorité pour le pays. Dans le cadre des renforcements des capacités, nous réalisons que nous avons contribué au renforcement des capacités de nos éleveurs. Nos collaborateurs ont été formés dans le cadre de GIS, et formations de lutte antivectorielle ont été continues, et le renforcement de la surveillance nous a permis, avec l'appui du projet Combat, de réaliser 45 participants au niveau de surveillance. Et pour le développement de l'Atlas, nous avons pu réaliser des formations de l'ordre de 35 participants. Par la suite, nous sommes en train de dynamiser, de mettre en place un laboratoire. Et à cet effet, nous avons formé 3 de nos collaborateurs en biologie moléculaire dans un laboratoire au Cameroun, où ils ont fait 3 mois. Et puis en évaluation du budget et suivi évaluation, nous avons réalisé la formation d'un de nos collaborateurs et une formation en socio-économique où nous avons participé grâce au projet Combat. Nous avons fait participer 3 de nos collaborateurs. Okay. Au niveau politique, les plaidoyers sont mis à jour. Nous avons fait des plaidoyers pour la relecture du statut de la mission qui date d'une 50aine d'années. En 2024, nous allons procéder à nous allons célébrer les 50 ans de la mission spéciale d'éradication des glossines. Et bien évidemment, le statut devrait changer. Donc nous sommes en train de faire un plaidoyer pour qu'il y ait relecture de ce statut. Le contrôle des TT pris en compte dans le programme Une seule santé. C'est un plaidoyer qui a été fait au niveau international, mais maintenant au Cameroun, c'est une réalité. La trypano fait partie des maladies prises en compte dans le programme One Health.
La validation de la stratégie en cours d'élaboration et le plan opérationnel de lutte antivectorielle ont été mis en place. L'actualisation des bases de données nous permet d'évaluer en permanence nos activités de lutte antivectorielle. Et toujours pour les plaidoyers, il y a une relecture du statut prise en compte. Oui, je crois que ça, c'est une redondance. Mais là, au niveau des équipements, nous constatons que le Cameroun a, ces dernières années, beaucoup investi pour la lutte contre la trypanosomose. Nous avons un nouveau siège qui est construit et équipé. Nous avons un laboratoire en cours de réception, dont les équipements sont en cours de réception. Et dans le cadre du projet Combat, nous avons plein de matériel qui devrait appuyer ce qui est fait par l'État. Nous avons le laboratoire de cartographie qui est budgétisé. Et d'autres activités, nous avons la sensibilisation et la formation des acteurs impliqués dans la lutte antivectorielle. Pour venir au compte que nous devons vous rendre en ce qui concerne les recommandations d'Abuja de 2019, nous constatons que pour la première recommandation adressée au pays, l'Atlas national de la trypanosomose est appuyé par le projet Combat et c'est une réalité. Nous sommes à près de 80% de réalisation de cet atlas. Dans les posters, nous avons un poster qui présente ces résultats. Le renforcement de l'épidémiosurveillance avec l'équipement du laboratoire, des motos et les collectes de données qui seront faites grâce à l'appui du projet Combat. Et pour la deuxième recommandation qui demandait aux participants des États membres d'affecter dans le bureau de coordination et de consentir des efforts pour l'engagement des discussions nationales et le processus de prioritisation. C'est une réalité, je l'ai dit plus haut. Nous intervenons dans les journées mondiales Une seule santé. La MSEC est invitée plusieurs fois et la trypanosomose a été prise en compte dans le cadre du programme Zoonose et l'insertion des maladies à transmission vectorielle dans le plan stratégique Une seule santé au Cameroun. Pour ce qui était de la troisième recommandation, nous constatons que le plan stratégique, nous avons pu mettre en place un plan stratégique de lutte antivectorielle dans les communes, appuyé dans les élevages laitiers, le développement avec les projets de développement de l'élevage, sa mise en œuvre est en cours. Et dans le cadre du projet Combat, nous allons relire la stratégie nationale en tenant en compte le PCP. Et pour ce qui est de la quatrième recommandation, l'insuffisance des ressources humaines, je voudrais signaler que l'État camerounais a pu affecter beaucoup de ressources humaines au niveau de la structure. Nous avons des cadres de très haut niveau et leur formation est en cours pour pouvoir assurer la relève. On peut déjà dire que la relève est une réalité. Et le Conseil nous avait demandé de mener des actions de contrôle d'éradication des moules tétés avec une vigueur renouvelée pour que l'agriculture et l'aspect socio-économique. Des actions qui concernent l'organisation des éleveurs sont menées dans les communes pour la pérennisation des activités. Je voudrais signaler ici que les éleveurs au Cameroun perçoivent, d'un côté, ils donnent des taxes au niveau des marchés à bétail qui permettent de lutter contre la moule tétée et la trypanosomose animale. Et cet argent est géré par les éleveurs. Donc c'est une activité de pérennisation. Et là, les éleveurs sont organisés au Cameroun et même au niveau déjà sous-régional, les éleveurs sont mieux organisés pour lutter contre la TAA et les vecteurs. La dernière recommandation qui avait été adressée aux États membres, que les bureaux de la PATEC doivent investir dans le personnel technique et de direction possédant les hautes qualités. Et je crois, je le disais déjà plus haut, plusieurs cadres ont été affectés à la MSEC. La formation continue de ce personnel est mise en œuvre pour booster les activités et relever naturellement la relève. Donc, messieurs les organisateurs, en ce qui concerne ce que vous nous avez demandé de réaliser en 2019, nous avons essayé au niveau du Cameroun de les réaliser à plus de 80%. Les enjeux, vous allez dire, les enjeux qui influenceraient le contrôle, naturellement, une plateforme des intervenants sur la recherche de la lutte et le contrôle des TAT au Cameroun, en prenant en compte le programme national de lutte contre la THA, la mission d'éradication des glossines, les universités, les organisations internationales comme l'OCEAC, les centres de recherche, l'IRAD, les laboratoires et les organisations d'éleveurs. Ce type de plateforme pourrait permettre de mieux concilier les efforts et réaliser des bons résultats. La collaboration avec les parties prenantes, déjà, je voudrais signaler...
Dr. Abba, you have done more than 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
More than 5
Moderator.
minutes.
La collaboration avec le laboratoire national vétérinaire pour l'appui aux formations techniques en laboratoire, le projet de développement d'élevage dans la sensibilisation des éleveurs a été réalisé et une grande collaboration avec les universités de Yaoundé, de Ngaoundé et de Maroua qui sont en cours et la Confédération nationale des éleveurs. Donc, voici des collaborations locales qui nous permettent au quotidien d'avancer dans nos réalisations. Bien évidemment, on demande une collaboration au niveau international. Nous constatons que la PATEC, c'est notre structure de l'Union africaine. Elle reste avec des réunions annuelles, bien que ces derniers temps, nous réalisons que ces réunions sont instables. Et l'AEA, avec les appels à candidature, bien évidemment, nous avons un souci parce que généralement, on n'arrive pas à arriver à terme des candidatures. Avec le Friedrich Loeffel Institute en Allemagne, nous avons une collaboration sur la formation de nos collaborateurs et bien évidemment, aujourd'hui, la mission spéciale d'éradication des glossines est membre du projet Combat où les livrables sont l'Atlas, dont le poster est là dehors, le renforcement du système d'épidémiosurveillance et bien évidemment la stratégie basée sur le contrôle progressif.
Dr. Abba, il est l'heure.
Thank you, Mr. the Moderator, for the end of this presentation. I think
Thank you very much.
Pour la suite de nos activités de 2024, tout a été programmé.
You have a bill for 5 minutes extra you have done.
Thank you, Mr.
We thank you very much, Dr. Abba. Another round of applause for him. Not only has he given us a country presentation, but he has also summarized today's work by giving us the history of PATEC and then recalling what we heard from Dr. Kabayo. In fact, mainly today's presentation has been wonderful. And you can see, I'm so happy that Dr. Kabayo is here to see that even though we don't have any running project, but the activity or whatever he set out to do is still ongoing, just that it is moving at a very slow pace. We can only do this with project funding. To rely on budgetary support from the government, it will not go on. So we are just praying that this forum will be able to end up getting a source of common funding for the TETE course to go on. And you know, this is basically on cross-border collaboration. We have it's a zoonotic, it's a transboundary disease. And once it's transboundary, if you keep on doing whatever you're doing within your country, TETE fly knows no barrier. So we need to step up this cross-border, and we can only do that with cross-border funding, and that is project funding. That is what we should be looking out for. I thank you very much for this, and I want to announce that tomorrow we'll be starting this session. We'll continue with this session, that is section 3C from 8:30. Please, we will continue, and if we are lucky, we could finish it before the dignitaries will be here for the opening ceremony. I thank you very much, and if there's any further announcement, I'll give it out to the chairman for the occasion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. A warm round of applause for the moderator and the rapporteur. thank you all for being so patient. This was the first day of the conference, and we appreciate your understanding. We had a slow start, but I think we have accelerated, and we shall be catching up tomorrow. Of course, being a first day, there are a few things that we shall need to improve on. I think the people who are dealing with the technology, the IT people, you need to relook at what it is that is interfering with the presentations. At the high table, we shall also try and make sure that we have a deputy moderator in case the moderator is the presenter and he wants to add more time to himself. I'm not going to summarize anything. Just look at the wealth of information that we are receiving, and let us look at this as a glass half full rather than a glass half empty. There will be time for discussion. Let us put down notes that we will include in the discussions tomorrow. And finally, the rapporteurs, as you take your notes, remember that it is your notes that we shall get the recommendations from. So as we go along, please identify areas that will be included in the recommendations on Friday. Having said that, again, I thank you very much for your patience, your understanding. Understand that there is some tea and coffee, the buses are waiting, and then we resume here tomorrow morning at 8:30. Thank you very much for your attention.